Hi, I'm Dr. Saira.
And I'm Faizan.
And we're excited because this is the first time we're doing a podcast together after a really long time.
I've been trying to avoid it. Let's be honest.
But why?
Huh?
But why?
Because then you like talking to me about stuff.
So a few years ago, we started a podcast, and it was an excuse really for me to sit on the couch with my husband and talk about stuff every Sunday.
Yeah. And we did.
And we did. And we had like lots and lots of episodes. It was called Subsea Life. You can go check it out if you're interested.
I don't know if it's still available, but
we've grown a lot since then. And so since Texas is away this week, I thought it would be fun for Faizan and I to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so today we're going to talk about how do you make these principles that we've been talking about in the Expansion Now podcasts, videos, concepts that, now are in a book. How do you make that work in marriage?
Can the principles work in a marriage? Like, can they? Have they?
I don't know.
We've been married almost 18 years.
Yeah. I'll be making a lot of fun of her, so maybe it'll come across as these principles don't work.
You'll get to see what our marriage looks like on a regular basis in this podcast, because that's...
Okay, you know what? A lot of people, over the years have come like, oh, Dr. Saira this, Dr. Saira that. It's like, I know the real Dr. Saira. They see this polished version sometimes.
Uh-huh. Okay, so since you clearly want to talk about it, tell us, who is the real Dr. Saira, Faizan? Behind the scenes, sneak peek.
No comments. I want to sleep in my bed tonight. So those eyes were the real Dr. Saira.
We were talking about, as we were kind of preparing for today, how has it been for us in our consciousness journey as a couple? I can remember when we first met, does everybody know the story yet? Like, do our parents know the story yet? I don't think our parents listen to this podcast, but they might. And if you do, we're sorry, because we lied. We told our parents that we were doing other things, and we met secretly in California. Yes, we totally did. Be honest.
I mean, yeah, we met.
But our parents didn't know, because coming from a kind of conservative, traditional Pakistani background, if Faizan was going to meet a girl, it was probably for an engagement. So we couldn't have that right away.
Sure, but I did tell them we're meeting, so... But okay.
I thought you told them you're on a business trip.
No. I don't know what you're talking... What is this?
That first California trip?
What is happening here?
Anyway, we met. We met online before online dating was a thing. And then we decided to meet in person. Met in California. And the reason I was telling that story is because one of the first experiences I had of you in that kind of consciousness space, or the, spirituality space, was there was a class that I was in. I was sitting in on a class, and I invited you. The teacher actually invited you to join us. And it was a class where we were studying mysticism, and particularly ritual. And this particular class just happened to be the one where we were actually engaging in a particular ritual from a particular tradition. And I didn't know what I was walking into, because I was like, oh, it's just class. And Faizan came along, and he just participated, like you didn't flinch. You just said, okay, well, this is what we're doing. And you just joined in the ceremony. And it was for me, it was a huge relief. Because it was a ceremony outside of the tradition that you and I grew up in. Okay. And so I thought, oh no, here's this I thought of you as kind of a conservative, traditional Muslim guy, and we're doing this ceremony from this other tradition. How is he going to handle it? But you just kind of went for it. And so that showed me okay, this guy is open, and he's curious and interested about spirituality beyond just the tradition that you grew up in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for us, that similarity of values was there. So I think that's why it was easy to have those conversations. It was easy to just jump in, even without getting to like fully knowing each other at that time. And then over the years, we built on those values in a certain way, um, by trying new things. But you were coming at it from a different perspective than I was, right? Like I've had this desire from a young age to be very like not be very anything, but to really explore
The mystical,
the mystical,
spiritual, the
yeah,
hidden.
yeah, like they call it the veil, and I'm really really enticed by that phrasing. There's a veil, right? Like, but
The
that's
mystery,
yeah, the
the
mystery and
hidden.
and not really what's behind it, but that veil itself holds so much excitement for me. And you were coming at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I was more interested in the psychology of things, right? And the inner workings of the mind and consciousness from that lens of, altered states, and how do I expand beyond what I already know. And I was interested in spirituality, but it kind of happened to me. It wasn't a search, right? For me, it wasn't, I was seeking something. I had these experiences that I then made sense of through my psychology lens. And so what's been really exciting, I think, for us is this consciousness work is kind of this meeting point between your kind of spiritual seeker, monk on a mountain kind of, right? Trope. And then my like, inner explorer psychology trope. And it's like they meet together in this consciousness space, which has been really neat for us in our marriage.
Yeah. You have your consciousness, I have my access to the consciousness, but then this relationship that gets created, then
it's
also
almost like a third entity that has its own flavor, its own energy.
It's an organism, right? And we actually
like not literally an organism,
but we talk about the business, right? Like a business that we're running as an organism has its inner workings. And so just like that, the marriage has its inner workings. And Monique talks a lot about patterns showing up.
So Monique Peck, she's the author of The How, also our one of the four co-founders of the Expansion Project with us.
Yeah, so she talks about that we obviously have our patterns, but then the relationship has patterns that we've kind of grown accustomed to, right? So, and because we treat it as this, most of the world treats the relationship, the marriage, as this thing that happens, right? It's like you and I can come together, have a relationship, and it should just work, right? And so there are these.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so there's
it's like you get married and then that's the finale, and then what?
Well, there's this pattern, right? Like, so you have your patterns, and I have my patterns that I've been living with. And then there's this weird thing that happens. These patterns, do their own little thing, and we're trying to mesh these patterns together, and that's what this marriage is, right? This marriage becomes these patterns trying to work themselves out, doing some weirdness once in a while.
And if we're in a contracted state, right? So if we're going back to the principles of the presence protocol. So if you're new to this podcast, you may not know, the basic premise is that there's only two states: expansion and contraction, or another way of saying it is alignment and misalignment. And you, as a sovereign being, have sovereign agency to choose your state, to choose your inner state. So if we take those principles into a marriage, what I see in many, many, many relationships with people who I've worked with over the years is that both people are trying to connect from behind a wall, or from what we would say from a contracted state, right? So I want to stay safe and protected. So I'm going to put up all my defense mechanisms. And from that place, I'm going to try to interact with this other person. And they're doing the same thing. And so it's like there's two giant walls between us. And so when we think about, well, what is the marriage? Well, what is between us is actually our protect our self-protection mechanisms is what's between us.
Yeah.
So as we've practiced being in an expanded state, being in alignment, the marriage itself has changed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But before we got there, right, I think it's good to explain kind of where we're coming from, right? Because just because we're in alignment doesn't mean the bills stop coming. That the kids, if you have kids, they have their growing pains, and we have our concerns with them. They have right. All of those things are still there. We have relationship challenges. We have
Extended family
extended
stuff.
families, people passing away, people being born. Like it's a life
Life
is
still happens.
life is happening. The bank is still expecting the rent or the mortgage payment to arrive on time. Like all of those things are still happening. And I think again, where though we had shared values, we were approaching life in a different way, right? You and I, even though the values were same. Like I was looking at it from sometimes like spirituality was a separate thing for me, right? Like it was just a thing that I did separately.
Right. Outside of our
And
relationship.
I'm like, yeah, and I had to do this work. Like I had to go to a job, pay bills, work this marriage, work with our kids. All of those things were just a thing that I did separately. And then like if I can find an hour to myself, I can
Right.
kind of attach.
So your spiritual life is kind of compartmentalized
Yeah,
away from
yeah,
everything
and
else.
exactly, and it was like okay, that's gonna, and it was in certain aspects, it was feeding the energy so I could do all of these other things.
Right. And now?
And well, and before we get there, and then I think you were also kind of approaching it from a psychological perspective, right? Kind of looking at, okay, I gotta have all of these things in a row so we can our marriage is okay, and then our kids' lives are okay. And what we saw, even with all of that, even with when our values, though we saw life very similarly, maybe from a different aspect, very similarly, we were struggling. And it's okay to struggle, and there's nothing wrong with the struggle,
I wouldn't
but
even say struggling phase. It's more like we were treading water. Right? We
yeah,
weren't really going anywhere. We weren't sinking, we weren't drowning,
no.
but we were just kind of treading water. We weren't kind of moving in a particular
But what
direction.
happens if you think about it, in different relationships and marriages, what happens is people say, it feels like we've fallen out of love. That's that treading water. It's like there's
It's
nothing.
fine.
Yeah, a
There's
lot.
no crisis.
Yeah, there are some folks in crisis, but a lot of marriages fail out of this deadness. This
Mm-hmm.
deadness that we feel. We're just trying to do things. Um,
To stay afloat.
and part of it is how again, that wall that you were talking about is like I just saw my life through that wall.
Mm.
Right? You saw your life through that wall. We tried raising our kids differently than maybe, right, like to avoid some of the mistakes our parents may have made, and to avoid
Maybe our parents are listening to this
and
podcast.
that's okay.
Oh, jeez.
If they can't admit they made mistakes, I'm like, I don't know what to tell them, because I know we all
I know we've made
yeah,
mistakes and we admit it.
but looking kind of through that wall, it was very limiting, because like if I just try to reach just through these two microphones that we've got set up,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the range of movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're trying to, yes, we were trying to raise kids, but like we were limiting, just because of our own belief system, we were limiting
Mm-hmm.
them and their growth.
Well, and because I know for myself, so much of my parenting came from a place of contraction,
Yeah.
right? Because trying to stay safe, I was just talking to Texas about this yesterday, right? About how much of my early motherhood was just so fear based
Yeah.
and so like I felt out of my depth and I felt overwhelmed and I didn't know how to talk about it or
Right.
get help for that, right?
And yeah, and there's aspects where, can you talk about it? Even if you can't talk about it, what can you talk about? And one of the things, and I know you've spoken about this, so is during the marriage and with kids in the picture, you went through this deep depressive episode,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like in all of that, like I'm facing, at least for, and I'm talking about from my own point of view, right? I'm not saying I don't know what the kids were experiencing. They can tell it from their perspective, but I know from my perspective, it was like I'd be at work wondering if I'm going to come home and if my kids are going to have a mother. We've talked about this before. And so from that limited perspective, I'm trying to solve this problem,
Mm-hmm.
this in my mind. And the way I talked about it just now is that it's a problem for me to solve. Like your deep depressive episode is something I have to solve because that's the limiting view that I've had, right, of my life through those walls is if I can solve things, I can be valuable, I can be accepted, all of those things, right? And I learned really a very difficult lessons like that. That's one thing I can't solve. If you were to harm yourself or do something, it was something I could not actually control.
Mm-hmm. And it's
And
tough,
lucky,
right? Because
yeah,
we've been sold this story that, well, at least you and I were sold this story from our backgrounds that you grow up, you go to university, you get a career, you get married, have a couple kids, buy a house, and then you should be fine.
yeah,
Right? Life should be good.
yeah,
You've done all the things, you've checked all the boxes, so you should be fine. Nobody talked about depression or nobody talked about anxiety.
mm-hmm.
Nobody told us that we didn't know how to manage our finances, right? All of these kind of life skills that we just didn't have. And in the last 2, 3, 5 years that we've been kind of living in
Yeah.
this small town and having a different approach to our day to day, we're starting to see that checkbox approach to marriage, it doesn't fulfill us.
Yeah, and like again in all of that, like through your depression, through my own anxiety and panic attacks that I would have once in a while, like how do you survive this thing, right? How do you be um, a solid ground for the other partner,
Especially when you're hoping the other partner will be that for you.
right? And because
Right?
that's
Because
the
that's what many of us come into
well, if,
relationship like, what am I going to get?
yeah, if you
What's
think
in it
about
for
it,
me?
if you think about it, right? When we were talking about it earlier about why we got married, right? Like there was this hope that I will find somebody who will get me and who'll finally give me that sense of relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many of us, like okay,
I can be myself.
I
I
can be
can
my.
relax. I can
But
let go.
then those same walls that I since childhood start coming up within the relationship, and then it turns out, oh, this other person that I thought was going to be my savior turns out to be my enemy. And so many people like live relationships in a way like in this combat mode. It feels
Combat mode.
right like that the other person's the enemy,
Right.
and it's really our approach to life, our walls, our patterns, and the patterns that have now formed within the relationships,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we approach life in a certain way because, well, I can't really depend on him,
Right.
can't depend on her for this, and so the relationship now has its own patterns that have shown up.
And that's something we've been kind of untangling and facing in the last couple
Yeah.
of years. And it's been really uncomfortable at times, right?
Yeah.
As we try
Well,
a
and
different way.
we used to talk about it from a psychological perspective,
Right.
that the problem, okay, if we're able to take this, because what most relationships where they falter is that that's a problem.
The other person's
The other person's a problem, right? You're the problem. If you fix this, I'd be okay. We'd be okay. You'd be okay.
If
right?
you do it my way,
Yeah.
everything would be fine.
And then you have the same approach, same
Right.
expectation of me.
Right.
Right. And so we would teach this to our clients that, okay, if we were to place the problem in front of us
Right. And get on the same
and
side.
get on the same side, then we'd approach it differently.
Yeah.
But even that, actually, what happens is that if we were to say, okay, the problem is not you, The problem is, I'm just gonna say it's in front of me, and
Mhm.
you and I are gonna look at it together.
Mhm.
It was a step in the right direction, but it wasn't the right
It wasn't
full.
the full picture because while we're side by side, we could still be contracted.
Yeah,
So then we're actually just both bringing our joint contracted selves to face the problem. So now we have this other piece around, and when we're on the same side, could we also individually commit to remaining in alignment? And here's the beautiful thing around it. Only one of us needs to be in alignment.
yeah.
Only one of us. And hold space, and the other person may or may not get there, right? I mean,
Well,
if,
and
if
that,
we're honest, like it took a
yeah,
little time for us both to be on the same page
sure,
at the
yeah, yeah.
same
And we're
time.
not always on the same page all the time. We're not always aligned at the same time.
I'm always, no, I'm not.
That's my line.
I couldn't even get through
Yeah,
it. But I would say I'm doing way better, right? Like there's
of course,
much more of
yeah,
our time we're in alignment, and when we're out of it, I think what's been really healthy is that we can call ourselves out.
yeah,
Right. When I'm in a contracted space, I can call myself out and say, I'm not feeling like myself today. I need to go do the presence protocol. I need to reset myself. I need to talk to somebody to help me. Because sometimes doing the self-guided presence protocol isn't enough. You actually need someone else. You need a witness. And so having friends in our lives who can do that for us has made a huge difference. And for me, actually working with a professional advanced consciousness therapist, the original advanced consciousness therapist that was Texas, right? Having that work with him and help him holding space for me to see and to start listening and to start seeing my own clarity was a huge impact on our
yeah.
relationship.
Well, and then we have blindfolds on, right?
Blindfolds.
Yeah. So I mean,
Blindfolds or blinders?
no, because we talk about people that have blind spots and blinders on.
Yeah.
But if you think about what most people actually live with, are actual blindfolds on.
Like the whole eye is covered.
Yeah. Right? And we're walking through life. I mean, a lot of people aren't even aware of their patterns. And then the blind spots are these hidden patterns that sometimes show up that you need somebody. I feel like you need somebody to say, hey, have you been noticing this? So those are the blind spots. But many of us, if we think about it, have been walking with blindfolds on.
Like full on.
Full on. Running into each other, not noticing, I'm like, because people don't recognize their anger. They don't recognize their sadness. They don't recognize
to the capacity to just stop and notice.
Yeah. And like, whoa, I feel off. Right? Like somehow the person who cuts you off in the road, like, just throws your day off.
Speak for yourself, my darling.
I am speaking for myself.
You said you.
No, I say you, general you, not you.
This is Faizan's, like, one of his kryptonite is bad drivers.
No. I just love now. I mean, yes, it was.
For many years.
But now I just do it because it's just like, come on. It's the excitement. It's the adrenaline rush.
Oh, and what about the other passengers in the car?
They could deal. They have sovereign.
You can't even say it.
So, yeah. Again, blinders and blindfolds on that we walk with. But yeah, but this is how most of our life and relationships have been going, right? And to now get in alignment. And what you said, and I think this is so critical, because so many people come to us like, well, it's really difficult for me to stay conscious and aligned when my partner is not doing the same.
Right.
And I'm sorry to say that's an excuse. It's an excuse for you. It's like a get out of jail free card, right? Like, just, it gives me an excuse to be out of alignment. And if you're going to do that, choose it. Choose to be out of alignment, right? Don't make an excuse that, oh, that person, because that person can't stay conscious and get aligned, it's really difficult for me to get conscious and get aligned. Yes, it makes it challenging, and that's where the growth is, right? That's where the growth opportunity is. That misalignment is the opportunity for us to get aligned and to hold that space. And it's not for us to get that person aligned. That's
Right.
not the point.
That's one of the questions that came up with a client yesterday. Is like, how do I teach my, fill in the blank family member to these principles? And it's like, well, if they don't care to learn, there's really not much. I mean, you could gift them the book, the how. You could we were telling our group, our mentorship circle yesterday, you could post little quotes from this on your social media, right? There's ways to get the word out. But if somebody doesn't want to change, there's not really anything you can do about it.
And again,
except hold that in yourself, and then you become that force in the room.
Right. And if their unwillingness to change, because again, that change is coming from a place of expectation, right? That
you want them to change so you feel better.
So I can feel better. That is a contracted state.
So I want to read you something. In alignment, you're no longer cut off from this field. You're in conversation with it. Your mind is quiet enough to receive. Your body is safe enough to follow the pull. Your presence is clear enough to recognize what once looked like randomness is guidance. This is where life begins to feel magical, not because everything becomes easy, but because you start to feel supported. You realize you're not the only one steering the ship. You're co-creating, listening, responding. And just as your inner state begins to shift, softening, opening, expanding, your outer world reflects that transformation. Not instantly, not always predictably, but undeniably. The right people appear. The next step lights up. The impossible becomes possible. These are what some might call miracles. Not the suspension of reality, but the realignment of reality with who you truly are. Once you're aligned with your truest self, your whole experience of the world changes. You feel connected instead of separate, present instead of scattered, whole instead of broken. Your nervous system softens, your heart opens, your mind clears. You still face challenges, but you meet them with peace. You still have feelings, but you're not ruled by them. You still care deeply, but you're no longer overwhelmed by needing to manage everything. This state isn't far away or only for a chosen few. It's already inside you, quietly waiting. And every time you choose truth over performance, presence over pressure, love over fear, you step closer to that aligned self. That's from The How by Monique Peck. So imagine bringing that in to your romantic relationship.
And only one person, again, I don't know how many, you'll hear us say this over and over as we talk about relationships. Only one person needs to be in this state. Because from that state, you might be shown what is actually needed, right? This problem that we think is a problem that's in front of us might be totally different.
It's covering something much more deep, much more tender.
Yeah. And the problem itself may be born out of a pattern that we have had, right? And it's not the other person's responsibility to fix that for us. And it is not my responsibility to fix it for them. And so this thing about like, how do I get them to be conscious? That is not my responsibility. My responsibility, my accountability is to my own alignment, right? It's to work to notice when I'm out of alignment and get back into alignment. And from there, maybe the other person will notice. Maybe the other person will have the space that's required in the relationship to step into their alignment. But that cannot be the goal. My goal of alignment cannot be to get you aligned.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about your own experience in this journey and what you've gone through, how you've arrived? I mean, we're not ever arriving, right? But
Yeah.
to this moment, what was your wake up call? How did it shift for you?
I mean, for me, it was recent. I've been doing this work, uh, the spiritual work, some of the psychological work, very separate, right? Like, yes, I need to work on myself, how I parent, taking accountability, all of those things I have been doing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't integrating fully into my life, right? Like my life
It
was
stayed kind of conceptual.
sometimes conceptual, sometimes like a lot of times I felt like I was living from the heart, but there were so many moments where I just like I couldn't stop, let's say, stop yelling at the kids. While I'm noticing myself yelling at the kids, saying, this isn't gonna help. Right? Like there's a voice in my head but the body is just reacting.
Right. So you're kind of stuck in that
Yeah.
automatic response.
Yeah. And where it kind of I think clicked was I was on my way to pick up my daughter. I've been so busy, right? Like doing so many like the job was busy, the business busy, the I was volunteering, all of those things that were I thought I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on my way to pick up our daughter from school, and I started having a panic attack while I'm driving in the middle of a mountain while there's construction happening. And usually with me, when like it hadn't happened at that point for a couple of years. I hadn't had a panic attack for a couple of years, and I don't know how. Somehow I pulled in like there's a gas station on the left hand side. I had pulled in because usually I don't notice what's happening around me. Like I just get into this to this place where I lose I don't lose consciousness. I just lose awareness. And I don't know how I pulled in, how I didn't run into anybody. There was no accident. It was just pulled in. And I was finally able to take a deep breath. And then I still had to go pick up pick up our daughter from school. And that was like it's got to be something different. There's got to be a different answer to this because I cannot, like, our daughter could have been in that car and the situation could have been a lot worse. I could have obviously hurt myself, hurt our daughter if she was in the car, but also hurt somebody else on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not to say I'm never gonna have it. I don't know. I'm not, trying to predict the future, but what that integration that really needed to happen, my focus became that. Like, okay, how do I become conscious of these awareness and how do I get my body back in control? So when I'm that yelling is happening and the voice is like, you know better than this,
Mm-hmm.
but the body just can't stop.
Because you're in that loop of fight or flight. You're in that protection mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because it's visceral, right?
It's visceral.
It's
Yeah,
like you can't think your way out of that.
No, I can't.
Nobody can.
Well,
Yeah.
I was trying to think my way, like,
but it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like, hey, stop. This isn't gonna help.
So now what do you do?
And so again, to be able to just take we've been told take a deep breath, but it was more than the breath.
Okay,
right?
What was it?
And it's the releasing of the emotion as well. So yes, take the breath,
regulate
the nervous system.
Yeah.
But to also be able to let go, release what's there.
Mm-hmm. So to notice it.
Yeah. So now,
to breathe through and to release.
Now I have an issue with the kids. I do my best not to just react, but like, okay, there's something coming up. So as soon as I catch that, I do the presence protocol. And I think what happens is the presence protocol or whatever process people follow, sometimes I've done that 10 times. Well, then do it an 11th time. Do it the 12th time.
Right, because we're actually rewiring the brain. Yeah. That takes time. Right? Yeah. It doesn't happen once.
No. And so to be able to do it and to be able to catch myself so quickly now, again, get the nervous system kind of settled, release what this is about. And a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, you know what? This is just me getting getting in trouble as a
But
kid.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Does doing the presence protocol make you love me more? That's what all our listeners want to know, Faizan. Is it helping our marriage?
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I mostly care.
You care. Yeah, exactly.
But how does it, so you're giving the example with kids.
No, but okay, so the kids, but yeah, no, even with us, right? Like, so the I forget where we were a few weeks ago. There was something that came up, like, you did this, and I was like ready to jump into a fight, and I'm like, okay, let me go clear this up, and then I was able to actually state
what you needed to say,
what I needed to say, but without the intensity of a fight,
without the charge,
without any of that, any of the you're wrong, I'm right, I'm wrong, you're right, nothing. It was just, hey, this is what is happening. So when you say this, this is what happens to me. Again, taking ownership and knowing that I was contracted, right? Calling my own contractions out. So now that's now.
But calling my own contractions out. That makes me think of when I was in labor.
Yeah, no, it's
not that kind of contraction.
No, not that kind of contraction. You keep that one. But yeah, no, I think. But in the beginning, it was just to be able to, okay, we had a fight. I said something wrong, whatever. But to be able to kind of repair, right? We talk about repair, but repair now, like, oh God, this is gonna mess me up.
And not feel bad because you're actually coming into alignment and then going into repair.
Yeah. So like, okay, if I said what I said, I can't take it back. I did what I did. I can't take it back. Fine. I can still get back into alignment, do the presence protocol, release it, go back. Now from that spot, repair.
Right.
Because I think what most folks talk about repair, again, is from a place of contraction. There's still that sense of, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And that guilt, that shame doesn't actually help anything.
It creates another wall.
Right. Right. And what we're saying is from that place of openness, that place of alignment, I've released the guilt and shame. And now we can actually have an open dialogue. I can let you see me. I can let you fully see those dark parts of me that I've been trying to hide. And a lot of us put up these walls so we don't have to show our partners those dark parts.
The unlovable parts.
The unlovable parts. But that actually keeps us unlovable.
Right. Well, it keeps us distant.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah. And I think from a relationship perspective, I find this work to be more clean, if I can say that.
Okay. Be more specific.
In a sense,
like, it's not complicated, right?
No.
Like, I mean, we've studied some other methods, we've studied some other theories and philosophies around relationship, and they're complex.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like there's all of
well, they're
identify what zone you're in, and like it's complex. I think what's really nice about this approach is it's very simple. There's only two states: either I'm expanded or I'm contracted. Right? Either I'm in alignment or I'm in misalignment. That's it. And so I don't have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out what's going on in any given moment.
Yeah.
Because you can feel it. You can feel when you're kind of like closed and shut down and have the walls up versus when you're open and receptive and connected and easy.
And if you don't know if you're contracted or not, that means you are contracted. Right? Like,
well, and there's a checklist. So in chapter 5, I think, of the book, there's actually a checklist of, it's very simple. Like, so basically misalignment feels like this: racing thoughts, negative emotions, uncomfortable body sensations or feelings, clouded thinking, focused on the past or future, and a sense of separation. That's what it feels like overall.
And so
the aligned state is a calm mind, positive emotions, relaxation in the body, clarity of thought, focus in the present moment, and the sense of oneness.
Right.
So some of us feel it more psychologically, like with the feelings and the thoughts. Some of us feel it more in the body. Whatever, some of us feel it more relationally with separate. So whatever, it doesn't matter how, but it's a very simple check-in to say, oh, where am I at? Oh, okay. And if I'm in misalignment, it's not like, well, you shouldn't be there. Because Monique was really clear about, I'm not going to tell people something if I don't have a solution for them. That's why the book is called The How, right? This is how we do this, not just here's your 2 states, good luck. It's here's your 2 states, and the presence protocol can get you back into alignment.
Right. And being able to, again, I think it's so important that we release that part of the presence protocol. When you learn it, there's this release process.
Right.
Because you release those, the yuck from from the,
and that's psychological, emotional, physical, relational, energetic, all of those things happen in the release.
Yeah, and then you approach your relationship, right? Like, so like thinking about the past all of the time or the future, that worry about the future impacts our relationship. Right. And so if we can be present and then talk about, okay, how are we going to do our finances from this state, rather than, in the past you spent too much money, we don't have enough saved, we don't, like these all of that might be true, but it's not actually helping us clear anything, because the amount saved, the amount that shows up in our bank account, the dishes that weren't done properly 10 years ago, all of these things are actually holding us back. And these are patterns because, well, I can control, right? That's the only control I have. How much is in my account? That's the only control I have in my life. Or how the dishes get done. Or if my kids took out the garbage on time. Or, I asked my husband to do something and he did it or not. And that tells me if he did it, he loves me. Didn't do it, that means, he doesn't love me.
You're getting the math.
Yeah. The wrong math. But it's that approach to a relationship
it's inherently flawed.
Yeah. And yes.
Because it then continues to remain transactional.
Right.
We're actually not growing and healing and moving in the same direction. Where it's who did more. Who's more tired, who's working harder. Like it's a competition and a transaction.
And all of these things need to be done. Finances need to be in order. The house needs to be clean.
Needs to be washed.
Yeah. Kids need to be taken to their school or appointments or whatever needs to happen in life. It still needs to happen, but it can't come from that place of control and the judgment and all these patterns, because it's very limiting. It's really, I'm just reliving my old childhood patterns.
Well, and it's draining, right? It's not energizing. It's not energizing to be doing the same thing in the same way year after year, year after year. And what we're finding with the expansion project, and it's really kind of neat, right? That here we are, 2 couples that have founded this thing, and our marriage has been infused with this exciting opportunity to grow together.
So we've talked about a lot of problems.
Have we?
Let's talk. I mean, somewhat, right? Like we've shown, okay, where things can go wrong in a relationship if we're approaching it from this contracted state. How else can a marriage look like?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Like what else, right? Like how are we living differently compared to even last year?
So again, I can speak for myself and my observations. Yeah. You may or may not agree with these. Dun, dun, dun.
Let's see.
Are you taking notes?
I'll take notes and I'll grade you to see.
Give you my report card at the end.
Yeah.
What's different for me in our marriage is I'm not waiting for you anymore. I was the one who would say, well, if my partner's not doing it, how can I do it? If he's not, understanding, then how can I move forward? I don't want to leave him behind. I remember having a session with Texas where I said, I don't want to leave him behind. And he said, you might have to. Right? And so me saying, no matter what this other person is doing, I'm going to keep staying true to myself, keep coming back to alignment, keep listening to my calling, even if it makes absolutely no sense to my partner. If it's real and if it's true, then it's going to be best for our whole family, right? So having that And there was some rocky moments where I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to be in this marriage anymore because we're just so different and he's not catching up.
Mm.
Right. And then it was actually right in May, just before our big event in June, right? Where I was like, man, this guy's not making the turn. Like, I don't see it. I'm worried. And I really had to surrender. Like, okay, if it means that I'm not in this marriage, even that. If that's what I'm shown, even that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that old version of relating to you had to die, right? I had to stop censoring myself and holding back and being passive aggressive and, doing the eye roll. And like, I had to just stop doing it that way because that was not in alignment, right? That was a contracted state. And so, but it was at the risk. Like, if I stop doing those things, then is he going to listen at all? Is he going to get me at all? But I think when I stopped those old behaviors, I don't know if you noticed even, but it was a real like intentional change for me to stop doing those things. It freed me then to just be myself. And it feels like it took some of the pressure off of you. I don't know if you felt it that way, but it's like I wasn't expecting you to fulfill some role for me anymore. Right? I wasn't expecting you to save me or to be my better half or to be my best friend or all these things that I was, I don't know, as a child expecting a partnership, a marriage would be. I just let all of that go.
Yeah.
Because now I could get all of that from I mean, it sounds maybe a bit cheesy, but I was getting that from source directly, not from you.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to you anymore for love.
Yeah, and that's
where
where
is coming through
and where
me.
that is where it should come from.
Yeah, but it was really scary because I felt like, well, if I'm not looking to him for love, well, then what's the point of being married?
Right. And I think what's changed.
This is new. This is stuff I haven't told you
No,
before.
I know that.
So you're all hearing it at the same time as Faizan is. So I hope this is okay.
Yeah. So like again, it comes from this place of service, right? Like I think what's changed for us is because I can free you from the responsibility of whatever
looking after you or whatever.
or whatever expectation I had of a partner. I can now, again, connected to the source, be of service.
Right. Rather than what am I going to get from you? It's how
do I show
support
up?
you?
Yeah.
It's different. Like it doesn't make any sense to the ego because the ego just wants to make it all about me, right? And what I need.
And sometimes showing up in this relationship means, well, you'd go deal with whatever's going on. It's not mine.
Here's a very simple example, and then we should probably wrap it up. Yeah. So for many years that we've been married, Faizan's wanted a coffee maker. And I've always said, well, coffee's a treat. Like, I like to have coffee as a treat. And so if we have it at home, I'll drink too much. And so I don't want a coffee maker. About a month ago, it occurred to me that, like, yeah, that's how I see coffee, but that's not maybe how he sees coffee. Maybe he just wants a coffee maker at home so he can have coffee whenever he wants. And he doesn't have to only have coffee as a treat when you go out to a restaurant. And that thought just never occurred to me all these years that, like, oh, there's another person in this marriage that might want something different than I do. And I don't get to make all the decisions about what appliances we have in our kitchen.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is what I've been dealing with for many years.
Because for me, it was aesthetic, right? It's like here on another thing on the counter and I don't even use it. So why would we even have it? But it really didn't occur to me and didn't occur to me how self-absorbed I was being in that.
And again, it was more than just like, it was the right time to get it also, right?
And it was the right coffee maker.
And
it's a grinder. It's a really good one.
Yeah, we're really happy with this coffee maker. But
But the automatic no that I'd been giving you for 17 years lifted because I stopped being all about me and what I need and how you're giving me what I need.
Yeah.
So it's shifting.
Yeah. I mean, that's a simple example, but even things like when Saira is having contracted states, I'm having contracted states. Sometimes so again, the other person in alignment checks in. Am I supposed to be the one that helps this? So like, am I the one that helps Saira through this? And sometimes the answer is no. And I say, hey, listen, I can't step in. And that part, like, what? I can't be the one that helps you solve the problem. Somebody else will. The other people will know the story. All of that has to be gone, right? Because it's not again. It's in service. Sometimes I need to step back
and not be the hero
and
the
not be the
rescuer.
hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how we're living, the day to day hasn't changed.
Right. We just feel more at ease with ourselves and in the marriage.
Yeah, the day to day busyness hasn't changed.
But we're not bogged down by it in the same way.
And we're not like, oh, why isn't Saira doing this? Why do I have to be the one stuck with this? Why doesn't Faizan do this? Why do I like all of these
that whole
thoughts?
Transactional keeping score thing is just melted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if anything you get out of this is make that choice for yourself to be aligned or misaligned. And if you're going to choose misalignment, but choose it.
And know that it's not your partner's responsibility to get you out of it. It's yours.
Yeah. Know that it's a choice, right? Like Texas says, it's a choice you're making. You can choose to be misaligned. It doesn't feel right? Because like, why would I choose to be misaligned, right? Because that's always
the choices of the old habituated patterns, right? You can choose to just do what you've always done, or you could try something new, something different.
And the thing for me is when I say I made a choice to be misaligned, that means I have the power to choose the other. If I want to make that choice, I can choose to be aligned. I can choose.
It's not as complicated to get there as you might have been thinking. It's actually really simple.
I can choose not to be ruled by my old patterns and my old the nervous system, automatic responses that my nervous system has, right? If I can at least tell myself that I'm making a choice to be misaligned, even if I cannot practice a presence protocol for whatever reason, that choice at some point will catch up to you making the choice to be aligned. And I think if anything you take away, take that you can always choose, and it's not your partner's responsibility to make that choice for you, to set up the environment for you to make that choice, because that doesn't exist.
So we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for listening. And if you want to stay connected, get a copy of the book, join our live Q&A the first Monday of the month. You can sign up for that on our website, or join our newsletter. And then you'll get like a weekly letter from me where I'm talking about random stuff and inviting you to whatever else is going on.
Subscribe, pass on these videos to other people if you find it valuable. And truly, we are so grateful to have each and every one of you, whether we know you physically or not. It's really great to have you on this journey with us.
Okay, talk to you next time.
Take care.